Welcome! In this video we're going to be taking a quick look at Victoria, an epic grade Debuffer class Elune. Starting off looking at her stats, 6 stars, no transcendence. She has decent HP at 27k with some attack of 4.8 and typical PDef and MDef for an epic class. Her attack speed is at 104, putting her at about the low end of the mid-range as far as speed goes. As she's transcended up to the max at +5, her HP goes up to a very decent 40.9k with her attack ending at 7.2 and her PDef and MDef ending at a very decent 4.2, 4.1k. This puts her as a candidate for a potentially good defensive build, but also being able to do damage with her decent attack. Let's look at some of her skills. Her first skill, normal skill, is a frontline only attack that does physical damage. This is just a basic physical damage skill with nothing special about it. Even leveling it up to the max at +6 just adds the damage, and that's about it. It's her passives and other skills that make her good. Looking in at the special skill, this is a 4-soul skill. This skill is an all-enemy skill, meaning AoE hits everybody. This is a physical damage again skill. The nice thing about this skill, though, is that if the enemy has a barrier or safeguard, then this will deal soul damage to them instead of regular damage. So the damage will be based on physical stats, but it'll deal as soul damage, ignoring the barrier and shield altogether, as well as all defenses. This makes it quite nice, as you can deal damage through any type of invincibility or barrier that they might have. This is particularly useful, especially in the UGD Underground Arena, when you see a lot of Freyas on the battlefield as your enemy. You can use this skill to completely ignore them and do damage to them. As the skill is leveled up, it goes up to a very decent 790 plus 96% of your attack. Again, it is a little bit lower than some other skills that do AoE even for epic grades, but because it can do soul damage if they have a barrier, the skill is nice. Looking in at her ultimate skill, this one is a single target again, but this one can be done to any enemy. It doesn't have to be front line. This one attacks 6 times, does physical damage. This time, however, if the target has a barrier or safeguard again, this time it will remove the barrier or safeguard off of them, stripping it off, not other buffs, but just the barrier safeguard, and then it will increase the damage by 100%. This will also stun for 3 turns, making this very useful as a skill to lock down a target. The damage being at a decent 290 plus 240% of physical attack when boosted by 100%, it makes it a very strong skill for hitting lots of damage on weaker targets. The skill, once maxed out, goes up to a 2150 with 320% of your attack as physical damage, making the skill hit very hard if they have a barrier or safeguard, which is useful against a lot of different teams, especially in UGD Arena, as she doesn't take much merit to use her. The physical effect stun also goes up to 4 turns, making the skill very effective at stun locking a target and keeping it out of the battle. So for instance, if you need to take out or control an Artemeal that you're facing, then this skill is very useful, as it can stun the Artemeal for 4 turns, and then you can just go to town on the rest of the team without having to worry about those revenges. Looking in at her passives, this one increases the resistance rate based on her current HP up to 50%. So as your HP status changes, her resistance rate will go up to a maximum of 50%, making her somewhat resistant to debuffs like stuns or controls, and also other debuffs like, for example, from a Balder, things like that will debuff in other ways to put continuous damage effects on her. Her second passive, this one, if she has 10 or more soul, it increases her accuracy rate and critical rate by 20% whenever she gets a turn. This effect ends once the turn ends, so it is only good for the current turn, and it is only if she has 10 or more souls. Otherwise you don't get that, meaning that she does have an increased chance of landing those stuns, and she has a higher chance of doing more damage with her critical rate being higher. The third passive, this one is good, especially if she's if you're pairing her with other weaker allies on your team. So if you can, try to get her maxed up through Transcendence to give her the best usage or ability to use this, especially if you plan on using her in the Underground Arena. This one increases her attack, physical defense, and magic defense by 25% for each ally of lower level or grade. This makes it a little bit easier for you to build those UGT teams, so you can keep lower geared or lower grade type, lower level type allies on your team and have her as a primary one, and for each one that's on your team, she increases her stats. If she's not the highest on your team and there's others that are higher, she still gets it for any that she is higher than. So for instance, if you bring something else to go into your back line and you only have them at no Transcendence, and you've got her at like plus 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, then at least you'll have that 25% bonus. However, the more that you have, the more effective she can be. This skill alone, this passive skill of hers alone, makes her very effective as a farming unit for leveling up your Elunes, as she does have a nice AoE. She has a stun, but she also does good damage. And with this increased defenses for her physical, magic defense, and attack, makes her very tanky, as well as doing excessive amounts of damage to the enemy. This makes her very good for farming, but she also has a nice kit for PvP. Looking in at the skill gems for her, for the first skill is a 5% chance to stun for 1 turn. This is useful for her, so it could be a good idea to put some skill gems in here as the recommended red, red, orange, just to have that extra chance of stunning a target every time she attacks with her first skill. It is a okay damaging skill, but having that extra chance to stun could benefit her and your team for that off chance, 5% only, of stunning the enemy, making her very effective as an extra CC when she's attacking with your team. Her second skill, this one, which is the AoE attack, when this attack lands as soul damage, it heals her HP by 5%. This is something that you're going to want to do because it allows her to stay alive. So if you're using her against something like a Freya that is constantly buffing up those shields, then you can use her to attack, deals the soul damage, and she heals herself by 5% of her HP, meaning that she can spam this skill quite often and she can keep herself alive by healing herself by a little each time. The last skill, her ultimate skill, this one restores 1 soul with a 10% chance. This one is kind of hit and miss if you want to get it or not. It can be nice to have that extra soul, but going maybe with a more damage approach on this skill, as it does hit very hard, might be a better option. So you can go for the increased crit rate by going with all orange gems, or you can go with just increased damage by going with full red. Either way, or a mix, is fine. However, going with the 3 gem set that it recommends for that extra soul chance is up to you. However, going with the extra damage might be good for this skill, or just going with for critical damage or physical damage. Either way, they're both going to add damage. The physical damage is just going to be straight, flat, always landed. The critical is just going to increase your chances of doing extra damage. Either way is fine. If you're going to do the dimension slate for her, things that you're going to want to focus on, you're going to need her to get some accuracy so you can land that strip and stun with the last skill. So that will be something that you want to do, but you also want to try to get her as much HP and attack as you can, because she is a very effective attacking Elune. As far as gear sets go, gear sets for her, anything that can boost her attack would be good. So attack type build is really what you want to do for her. You don't want to necessarily build her on a support build with an HP for her offhand slot. Going full attack is going to be better for her, as she does do quite nice damage, and she can do soul damage, so you can do even more damage to those tanky Elunes that don't like taking a lot of damage. So going with a full attack build for the gear is something that you'd probably want to do. A debuffer set is nice, as it gives you the chance of landing those debuffs more often. A full moon set would be good. A full set of full moon could also be good, as it will give her the ability to reflect debuffs if someone tries to attack her with a debuff. So that would be a good idea too if you wanted to go with a full moon set. You can also go with a Great Spirit set to try to give her another chance at an extra turn. but you'd have to sacrifice your accuracy that way if you do that, but it could be a good alternative if you're just going for straight up damage and trying to do as much as you can. Same thing with the Baron J set. You can go with the Baron J set just to try to get as much damage as possible out of her. For me, I would probably recommend going with a full moon set just to make sure she can land those debuffs, but also it's a good, still good set for doing damage with it, because both the weapon and the offhand are both going to be damage based, attack based stats, so you don't have to worry about, you know, an HP one on her. Try to get the skills maxed out what you can, especially her second and third skill. Those are the ones you want to focus on, so you can get those longer stun durations and just more damage from the second skill. So if you're going to do that, try to get those maxed out. All in all, Victoria is a good Elune. She was kind of falling out of favor for a while for when Elune was new and there was a lot of newer players. Stella was the big problem in just the normal air battles, so the way to deal with Stella putting up that shield, that massive shield that she did, Victoria was kind of the key to that and the counter to those early Stella comps. So that way you could use Victoria to just ignore the shields, remove the shields, do soul damage. You could still just destroy enemy teams really quick with her. With the meta changing now and Stella, you don't see her so much in there. She still has a place and she still can be good. But Victoria kind of hard countered her pretty badly, so she's not so useful there. But she is kind of useful now in UGD arena, where merit is more of a key factor that you have to pay attention to. So you can't just go with, you know, your premium, you know, legendary Elune's full team, because then you just have too much merit. So you're either going to have to cut back on the number of them that you put on your team, or they're going to have to be weaker versions or something to cut back on that merit. Victoria can still be useful against those because she does have that nice 4-turn stun on her ultimate skill, but she also has the ignore shields for people that live during Freya's, which is pretty common in UGD to see as people running Freya's. So she can be pretty effective for doing that to get through those shields. That's going to be it for this one. If you have any questions or comments, just leave them below and I'll answer them as soon as I can. Thank you.